Hey, amazing students, welcome to another lesson. This is Jason Hartman, and we are going to talk about one of my longtime strategies. This is one that I really like. It's called Refi Till You Die. I know that's kind of a funny name, but it's a good strategy because when we're creating wealth through our investment real estate, what we want to do is we want to look for the most tax efficient and the most wealth creation efficient way to extract our wealth from our portfolio of properties. And we do this with a strategy called Refi Till You Die. One of the absolutely beautiful things about income property as an asset class, the most historically proven asset class in the world, is that you can get your money back out of the deal. You put money into the deal, you can get it back out and still control the asset and have it create more wealth for you. And you can do this in these beautiful cycles that I call Refi Till You Die. So let's dive into it. Our learning objectives, we're going to learn how to efficiently extract wealth from income properties. We're going to learn the math of my Refi Till You Die technique. And we're going to understand the pros and cons of refinancing a property. So I want to dive right into an example here. There's some stuff in the interest of time that I may just kind of show you a slide and not explain it very much. You can pause and you can look at that till your heart's content. But let me dive into this example. Let's take a $1 million portfolio as an example. Now, this might be a portfolio of 10 $100,000 single family homes in diverse markets, maybe in 3 different markets. So you might have 4 of them in one market and 3 of them, 3 each in 2 other markets. And when I say market, we're talking about a metropolitan statistical area, usually an MSA, so that we are geographically diversified. We've got the most historically proven asset class, but we've diversified geographically to reduce our risk. Now, on a $1 million portfolio, subject to qualifying for financing, we may be able to put 20% down, and that would be $200,000. And closing costs vary. They vary for many reasons by locale, and they also vary depending on the type of financing you choose. So I'm just going to roughly estimate here that closing costs are going to be about 3.5% or $35,000. And our minimum for reserves, cash in the bank that we don't touch, cash that is dedicated to our portfolio of properties, is 4%. That's our minimum, and that's $40,000. So our total needed for this portfolio is $275,000. If you've got more money to invest, you can just add a 0 and call this a $10 million portfolio and add a 0 to everything. If you've got less money to invest, you can just take a 0 away, and this will be a $100,000 portfolio. Now, it won't be diversified because it's probably just one property, but you get the idea. All of these, just add or subtract a 0, or maybe add a couple of zeros, depending on how big an investor you are, okay? So Jerry Maguire, in that great movie, he said, "Show me the money." So how do we extract the wealth from our properties? So I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly. Feel free to pause the video if you like to look at it in more detail. We've got our $1 million portfolio, $235,000 investment, because remember, we've got $40,000 in reserves. That's not invested. It's just in reserves on the sidelines for vacancies, repair issues, problems, okay? Just a contingency fund. And we've got $800,000 in loans, $200,000 in equity. We're going to let 12 years go by. And I know this may seem like a long time, especially if you're a person in your 20s who is listening to this. But trust me, 12 years will go by in the blink of an eye. You know that 12 years, you know that time goes faster and faster as you age. So it's amazing how quickly this time goes by. I'm going to take the example of a person who is 40 years young. They say 40 is the new 25, right? Or 50 is the new 25 even, because our whole perspective of age is changing dramatically as people live longer and they live healthier lives. Not only have lifespans increased, but health span has increased. So 12 years is going to pass anyway. You might as well make it productive, right? And remember, this is a fairly passive investment. This is not like your business. Hopefully you're going to do a lot more investing, make a lot more money in your business, but this is just a portfolio of properties on the sidelines here. So the 40-year-old is now 52 years young, and at an average of 6% appreciation, and again, that can totally vary. This is a projection. It could be wrong, okay? So understand that. It's 6% based on the rule of 72s. This portfolio will double in 12 years, okay? So if that happens, you will have a $1 million gain. And depending on how the lending climate is at the time, you may be able to refinance more or less. We don't know what 12 years will bring. And, this could be in 10 years or 7 years. And I'm going to show you a 7-year example right after this if you want to speed it up a little bit. But let's just use the lending standards we have today, or, somewhat historical standards of being able to refinance for 80% loan to value ratio, or LTV. So then, if you were able to do that, you've got $1.6 million in loans, and you've got $400,000 in equity. So your portfolio value has doubled, your financing has doubled, and your equity has doubled. And the beauty is, you've got $800,000 cash out. Now, again, I've rounded things off pretty dramatically here just for simplicity purposes, okay? There could be some closing costs with your refinance. Maybe it'll be a no-cost refi. I don't know, okay? It's an example, just so you get the idea, okay? So $800,000 in proceeds to divide and spend over the next 12 years. Now remember, this is borrowed money, so there's no tax liability, at least under current law, on borrowed money. So you could take this $800,000 and literally stick it under your mattress, which hopefully you would never do that, okay? But just to use that metaphor, stick it under your mattress and divide it by 12. Earn 0 interest on it. Be dumb. Don't invest it. Just divide it by 12 is all we're doing here. And of course, you're going to do something much smarter than that, but I'm trying to make a very simple example. And that would leave us with $66,667 per year tax-free. Depending on your tax bracket and where you live, that might be equal to about $110,000 per year on which to live over the next 12 years. Now, you do it again and another cycle occurs. You're only 64 years young, our 40-year-old example, right? 64 years young. Now the portfolio has gone from $1 million to $4 million because the rule of 72s is letting you start with a $2 million number this time. Your gain is now $3 million. And you refinance at 80-20 loan to value. You tell the bank that you want $3.2 million in loans. Your equity has now quadrupled from the beginning. It's now $800,000 in equity. And your proceeds from a cash out refi would potentially be $1.6 million. And if you divide that $1.6 million by 12, you don't earn any return on it, you will have $133,000 per year for the next 12 years. Sure beats Social Security, doesn't it? Okay? And then you do it one more time in our example, and here you're only, 76 years young? I mean, I know lots of 76-year-olds now that are doing amazing things and plan to live a lot longer. In fact, the major problem people are going to face in the future is too much life left at the end of the money. So now you have a $7 million gain, $6.4 million in loans. Your equity has doubled again. You've got $1.6 million in equity and $3.2 million cash out. That's over $250,000 a year, tax-free. Tax-free. At the time, depending, tax rates will probably be much higher by then. I mean, that could be well over $500,000 in taxable income per year that you have tax-free, even if you don't invest it, if you just divide it, which would be a terrible idea, of course. Now, there are a couple things that you could throw some objections at this idea. One objection is, well, Jason, my financing is increasing, so my debt service on the property, on the portfolio, will increase. Yes, you're absolutely right. Maybe, assuming interest rates are where they are now, or maybe they'll be much higher in the future. We don't know. But in a concept I call the 3 dimensions of real estate, and there are really more than 3 dimensions, that's just a cute name. In the 3 dimensions of real estate, we talk, and we've alluded to this in prior lessons, where we've talked about how these are non-correlating indicators, because people only have 3 choices: buy, rent, or be homeless. Someone in one of my seminars said, hey, wait, there's a 4th choice. They can live with their parents. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, 4 choices. So buy, rent, be homeless, live with parents, move in with the parents. And so in this case, what you've got to realize is that we are in a situation where if interest rates go up, that makes affordability lower. So then it would have the effect, at least historically, of pushing rents up higher. So that is what compensates us for the higher debt service. And if you look at history, we all know rents go up. And we all know rents ultimately adjust to prices and interest rates. So I know we're making a projection here. I completely get that. However, historically, this concept has definitely held true. And it's even been better in many cases, where we've seen this improve dramatically. So, the housing market is determined by affordability and accessibility to financing. And everybody out there in the marketplace only has those 3, maybe 4, live with parents, if you consider that a choices when it comes to housing. They've got to do something. And the basic 2 choices are they either own or rent. And if it's expensive to own, it'll be more expensive to rent. So if the prices go up, as they do in our projection here, in this example, then the rents go up. If the interest rates go up, then it puts upward pressure on rents too, because housing affordability is lower. So their choice is buy or rent. So I'm not going to go into that too much more deeply. It could be a much longer discussion, but you get that concept from prior lessons. Okay, so you say, Jason, 12 years is too long. I can't wait that long. Well, this is not a business. Remember, this is an investment portfolio. And it is the most historically proven asset class in America, if not the entire world. So I took a line from the 7-year itch concept, which you may have heard that expression before. And you can do refi till you die on that basis too. Here in this example, we start with a $2 million portfolio. So we double our portfolio size. And we wait only 7 years. So our 40-year-old is only 47 years young now. And their portfolio goes up by 50%. So they've got a $1 million gain on their $2 million portfolio, and they've got $800,000 in proceeds in 7 years. In just 7 years. And the next 7 years, they do the cycle again. They've got the $114,000 per year in tax-free income to live on. And then it goes to $4.5 million. And then they've got $1.2 million, which is $171,000 a year. And then they do it one more time, and they're only 61 now. Okay? And they've got $250,000 per year, a little more than that. So you get the example. I'm not going to go through that one in too much detail. You can look at it. Some pros and cons of refinancing, okay? Some of the pros, the proceeds from a cash-out refi are not taxed as income. The interest expense is deductible against income, so you do increase your deductions. You'll very likely have a higher payment, as we discussed. That would be the downside. But rents should, at least they have historically, should adjust for that payment. And higher loan balance reduces your overall equity position from the time before you refinanced. But as you saw in the examples, your equity doubles each time in the first example, right? So pretty good. So tax-free income, the most tax-efficient way to extract wealth from your property, all right? And of course, the smart thing to do would be to acquire more properties and grow your real estate empire. Now, your action items for this lesson: calculate the acceleration in your wealth based on refinancing versus not refinancing, versus letting the money sit in the property, the equity from appreciation sit in the property and become what I call lazy. It's lazy money. Equity is lazy. There's a metric used largely in the commercial real estate business called return on equity. And I would argue that return on equity is kind of a myth, really. I don't think there is really any such thing as return on equity in a sense. And what I mean by that is the property will go up or down in value, and it will produce X amount of income from its rental activities, regardless of the amount of equity you have in the property. So return on equity is a bit of a misnomer, I believe. Your badge action here. Use the spreadsheet to help you along, and then calculate the returns with and without refinancing. Upload a screenshot for your badge, and I'll talk to you on the next lesson. Remember, refi till you die. By the way, I just want to close with one more thought on this. I know this may be kind of confusing. I threw a lot at you. There's a lot of numbers. So you might want to review this lesson again, and we'll have ongoing updates where we can help you with this, because many people see it for one time and they think, wow, my head is spinning. I didn't quite catch that. I have presented this to probably 8,000 people in my live audiences and on my podcast. And they absolutely love this strategy. But it sometimes takes a little while to kind of really get your head around it. So I understand that. Review the lesson again, okay? And we'll be there to take questions also. So we'll talk to you on the next lesson.